This is my sketchbook. I've just finished a sketchbook, and that might not seem like a huge event in the world of artists, of which there are millions of sketchbooks, but the way I paint is quite unusual. The sketchbook is where my images are born and in fact finish their kind of life cycle. One of the things I've had a lot of fun with is the idea that actually, in a strange kind of way, I don't sketch. When I make artworks, I tend to sketch while I'm actually doing the painting. So, for instance, while this painting was happening, although this probably isn't the best example, things probably moved around quite a lot. That face changed its size, shape, scale, all over the place. And some of these flowers may have appeared elsewhere in the painting. There's probably nothing there that hasn't moved a couple of centimetres. This one here is just called Underway. What was I doing? I was really just experimenting with perspective, with light. I wanted to capture a place. I like doing quite minimal pieces with not much in the way of how can I say it? Strictly speaking, usually a narrative painting has at least the hints of the entire story in it. Either that or there's a series of them. This one, classically, only has one object in it, and you're not really given a full narrative. That's important to me. Jack and Jill, I've been doing a series on nursery rhymes, and this book is largely dedicated to it, so if you know anything nursery rhymes, this may not be the one for you. This is amazing. Animal, you hear about animals in films, that bird's been quiet all day. Jack and Jill. All of my focus here is on what maybe these events were really like, or maybe what they conjure in your mind. A lot of effort goes into softening nursery rhymes, and really I feel what I've done in this entire... Oh, look, a pigeon! There's a pigeon. Pigeon? What I've done in this whole video is this whole what I have done in this whole experience with the nursery rhymes is really just paint them as I suspect they are. So rather than, you know, I think many would accuse me of kind of gruesoming them up. I don't really feel that I've made the nursery rhymes more gruesome. We're going to see a lot of nursery rhymes. Right, I'm going to move on to the next one. This is another rune. This is E. E is the horse, and it represents friends and travel. It's also another love rune, actually, although usually it means something else. But in a way, it's often there as a sign of the kind of the most intense love, because a large part of love is friendship. And with the horse, you have the symbol of two people going the same way, and also of help, of course. Horses are, for humanity, help. This is quite fun because, you know, the runes are meant to be pulled from the back of time, if you know what I mean. They're meant to have come from nowhere, if you know what I mean. The gaping void, the Big Bang. And of course, horses have been with human beings, we don't know how long, but not that long. Not as long as, say, for instance, cats or even pigeons. Pigeon. Moving on. Right. Moving on. This is Rockabye Baby. Rockabye Baby's a brilliant little rhyme. It's so horrific. There's just no way you can read it in an unthreatening manner. It's just fascinating, you know. Rockabye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle would rock. Already, you've got the fact that, well, the hint that when the wind is not blowing, the cradle won't rock. They're on their own. That's scary. And then, of course, there's the whole business of the cradle falling and the bough breaking. It's dark. Really, really, really dark. And I have to say I really like this one because it is dark. It's not malevolent. And, you know, I think if anything, I've gone for, you know, I've not shown the baby falling and stuff like that. And, you know, one hopes that the baby won't fall in this photograph picture. But, you know, it's a dark rhyme and you know, fascinating taken out of context. There was a crooked man. I'm strangely happy with this one. It works. Sometimes, ironically, I've drawn this out beforehand in a kind of the Intoba thing, because one of the words was crooked, and I thought, right, well, I'm going to be doing nursery rhymes, so crooked, here we go. And I've done a picture, and then I think, ironically, I started with that image in my mind, and it just kind of, through various scribbles, rubbings, etc., ended up in a completely different pose. But I like it. It's all in there, other than the fact that I really should have done that silver, because sixpences are silver. But hey, I wanted it glowing, I wanted it visible, I wanted it out there. It's also a broken sixpence, not a crooked one. About it. This is probably for me the peak, the crescendo of this sketchbook. I loved doing this one. I hate doing animals. We all have such a strong image in our heads of what an animal should look like, and yet as an artist, when you sit down and try and kind of either crystallise it, you know, it's amazing how close to an aardvark a horse is, and it's amazing how close to a goose is to a chicken. So I started this picture with blood-curdling fear. Also of note, this is the first picture, you know, to show my blood-curdling fear, that I did the whole thing in black and white before I hit it with colour, just because I knew I needed to move things around. I needed to get the light just right because I had such a strong image of it. And somehow my goose does look like a goose. Somehow this picture, it does look Alfred Hitchcock. It does look like a kind of murder scene. It's goosey gander, but well, there's a lot of religious persecution in it. And somehow, yeah, this one just worked. You know, it's usually I allow myself a bit of mutation in a painting, and usually what I end up with is not exactly what I started the plan with. And this one, I don't know, it did almost everything I wanted it to do, and it still felt like a really nice surprise when I saw it, when it was finished. So yeah, that for me is a peak. This one, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is, I've put it in a stage because its life kind of started, unlike the others, it kind of started in the arts. A lot of the other nursery rhymes were already well accepted before anybody ever thought to draw them, paint them, perform them, anything like that, other than on a playground and in a child's bedroom or whatever. And I also snuck in a bit of Lewis Carroll. I thought I'd put a bat in a tea tray in. I love Lewis Carroll, he's just so clever. This is actually Jethro, my son, and we frequently talk about Jethro twinkling. He does this thing where he'll do that. He's got learning difficulties, and you know, sometimes he'll really get fixated on the small object or the shape his fingers make, and so he twinkles. And he's also a huge fan of nursery rhymes, partly why I did this project. The blue in the background is flames, because of course that's what a star really is. I think that's all about it. I quite like that one. I wanted to go for a kind of Victorian stage setty feel, and I think that's in there. This one I'm also really fond of. My dog looks a bit like a rat in a polythene bag, but other than that, I really like this one. I think if it wasn't for the dog, I'd love it. It's Rain, Rain, Go Away. I've always been interested in magic, whether it be mermaids and fairies or some dark warlord going... Do you know what I mean? It's always been something I've been interested in. I'm very interested in the runes, as we've already been. And it's just, I've always liked the idea of underplaying magic. And, you know, even when I built video games, often, you know, you get magic in video games. It's like, eyeballs, whatever, you know, crazy lightning. I've always liked the idea of it being something much subtler, which... you know, in a way it makes it a little bit darker. Ring a Ring of Roses. Right, compared with what I thought this would come out, this is another of the ones I'm really happy with, in that the idea of drawing 5 kids from a strange perspective in a circle, it's, I don't know, I think other artists, if anybody, other artists watch this, they'll kind of get me when I say that's not something particularly wildly comforting to draw. And, you know, it did kind of, you know, it's another one that kind of came out on the paper the way it was in my head. And, you know, there were a few surprises. I probably would have not stuck the horizon in normally and let the thing go, but it felt really nice to suddenly stick in the horizon and make the whole thing bend like you're looking through it through a fisheye lens or something. And yeah, I've stuck in some of the hints for the old ones, that little tombstones for the old the Black Death theory, although it turns out that it's probably more than likely pagan. It's not Black Death, it's older than Black Death, and in fact, it's probably happy. Portuguese nursery rhyme? I quite like this one. I'd asked 2 of the people that helped Jethro, the child with learning difficulty, who one's from Lithuania and one's from Portugal, for nursery rhymes, and the first nursery rhyme that came back kind of isn't a nursery rhyme, I suspect. It's kind of like, it's got a really complex tune. It's got like 3 or 4 verses, and it sounds like something that quite talented parents sing to children, as opposed to something that quite talentless kids can sing on the streets, if you know what I mean. And it's very gentle. There were also, I have to say, some already brilliant images of it. There was a video particularly that was really good. So, you know, the only thing that I really did in this that was kind of, you know, and the imagery is so blatant. It's about the moon, it's about babies, it's about angels. And I again went for the kind of theatre style clouds, and I went for these stars that look like big floppy starfish, just kind of like flopped on the landscape. I've done so many paintings of angels, so I'm not scared of drawing angels, but I got it into my head I'd rather have a bird on top of it, a bit like this video with a bird kind of omnipresent, although that's not intentional. So I decided that the moon only smiles on angels. I'd make her an angel by giving her a bird instead of 7 wings. And moving on, isn't that perfect timing? Incy Wincy Spider. Incy Wincy Spider. It's just such a great image in my head. I actually quite like the image I've done, but I mean, just the image of a spider going up a big long tunnel, you know, it's kind of like nature meets mankind. And I've actually stuck it in a garden, but you know, obviously this bit down here where you've got a spider going into a rusty pipe's the bit that excites me. On the other hand, this was not one that screamed at me for the book, because its meaning, you know, it's one of the ones that, like all of them, they don't quite know where it's from, but we're all pretty sure what it means. And I'll move on. Green bottles. I could be accused of diving too quickly down a route that was, it was just so funny that something so basic as 10 green bottles, which is evidently for most of us about numbers and about bottles and about the idea of them smashing. So that's obviously in there. But there was also this, I found online, one particular version where people believed that possibly, one particular theory where people believed, or at least suspected, that the green bottles were policemen, and that this was a song born of the dark underworld, where basically, you know, it was a little bit of a fantasy. And, you know, hanging on the walls, they are hanging on the walls, definitely 9 green bottles hanging on the wall. Why are they hanging? You don't hang bottles on walls, you sit them on walls. But so you've got, you know, I probably went a bit rabid with them. That was one of the other original covers. I decided to abandon this one. It's it looked really funny as a sketch. It looked kind of you know, you got the whole idea that it was dark, but at the same time there was something very witty about it. And when I finished it, it actually looks, well, it looks very similar to the Devil Tarot card, for instance. How can you do that? Well, you know, how could I... Oh, I accidentally drew the Tarot Devil. No, that's not quite what happened. What actually happened is that when I drew it, its mood was so different. You know, as soon as you added the colour that I knew would be there, just somehow the mood it created was so different. So I then moved on to this, which Brother Goose... originally, I think, I've forgotten the name of the original illustrator of Mother Goose, but also Arthur Rackham did a picture of children sitting on the back of a goose and going for a wonderful ride. And I thought, let's call it Brother Goose, and let's have the goose carry them in a more kind of goose-friendly way. And so you then get the sensation of more of a roller coaster ride than a kind of a gently rocking ride. You know, this isn't teacups anymore. This is kind of dragons. And you know, again, you can see themes. I've brought in a big telegraph wire to tell people that this is not going to be cute little Georgian period drama. And I stuck in satellite dishes, although there's kind of comedy to that because my son didn't recognise them. And instead of kind of bringing it to the modern day, I've actually set it back into a period in history that's maybe fading and forgotten. You know, nowadays we all have cable. Finally, this is a picture, it's the last picture in the book. And one of the things about doing a book like this is that you kind of have an evolution from terrible vandalism of a beautiful art material to a body of work that maybe you're not that wildly keen on, and then hopefully it will build up to a body of work that you are keen on, and then you get to this large page and it shouldn't matter, I'm just about to cut this book up, but you think, I can't wreck it. And I was still in nursery rhyme mode, but I didn't actually want to do a rhyme for this particular one. So I brought Goosey and this character together for a kind of reconciliation. After doing the cover picture, which I'm not that wild about, I thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a closing page where Goosey and somebody at least are looking like they're on good terms. And I've stuck them in a kind of an industrial environment. And, you know, there's a furnace behind. So, you know, they're somewhere real, if not slightly threatening. But they're okay. And, you know, they've decided they trust each other. And that kind of leads me back onto this video, this event, this experience. This is like, I don't know how to say it, because of the way I work, because these things don't go into sketch first, because they literally go on, they evolve, and they become paintings as they are here. This book is like, it's like, well, 6 months of my life. It's a huge chunk of my existence. And, you know, it's a narrative. You know, if I do a couple of particularly bad paintings, they're in there, they're stored, and they affect the whole. And then, of course, when I cut them up, you know, I think if I was wealthy or respected enough, I'd be selling these books, not single paintings, because they're diaries. They are kind of they're journeys. And, you know, I'm about to cut this book up, and it will be the end of a journey. It will be like, I keep thinking about Ramadan, where they take in a goat and they look after it, and they cherish it to a large extent, and then one day they eat it. And that, in a way, is what I'm about to do. I'm about to cut up this book, and it will finish its lifespan and become a lot of paintings, some of which I'm really fond of and some of which I'm not. So, here goes. As I said, cutting up a sketchbook is weird. The first time I ever cut up a sketchbook, I was in art college, and the only reason why I did it was because I discovered that two pages had actually stuck together. I was absolutely gutted, and I sat there. I think I actually cried. The page is not going to come out first. But obviously, you know, they come out and they become separate artworks, and in fact, you know, eventually it feels good. I think for the first maybe 2 years at art college, almost everything that I did that I was proud of was in a book. I did do large paintings elsewhere, but at that time I was really struggling with larger scale. And in fact, I do still hugely struggle with the kind of ruin the canvas state of affairs. If you're wondering why I'm not taking them out in order, it's because I'm taking them out in the order of which page actually wants to come out. I don't want to damage anything. I've always been allergic to the naked page. You know, when I do a painting, one of the things I really enjoy doing with acrylics, and it's probably why I've chosen it as my medium for the last while, is I like the white to be paint. I don't like it to be untouched surface. When I used to work with inks, which I did a lot of, one of the things I really disliked about them was the fact that I could choose to have either no white in my painting, or these strange naked bits of the painting that had a different texture, that had a different sheen. You know, they'd light up differently when the sun shone on the picture. It just kind of, as a kind of as an effect, it really irritated me. I'm going to be really glad if we can get this one off okay. I've still got a string left there. This is actually a lovely, easy sketchbook, and to cut up. A lot of them are bound a lot more tightly. Careful not to damage any of the nursery rhymes. Other pages are going to leap out first. Oh. But no, when I finish this, I'm going to end up with a much easier object to photograph and scan, which is in its own right fairly exciting. Doing this really, you know, I keep wondering at the sanity of doing a video. I thought of doing this publicly, like, you know, like a private view or something, but it might take me too long, particularly if I'm going to do it well, and that might be a bit